Okay, cool. So we're recording now. I'm here with Coach Fran Davis. Fran, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Like I told you a little earlier, I had a full weekend of coaching. It's the first time ever in my career that I've coached Paola Longoria and Rocky Carson during the same weekend, and they both made the finals, and the time was exactly the same. They both played 12 noon Eastern time, and I had my iPad and I had my computer, and it was back and forth calling them both. So it was a little different than what I'm used to, but nonetheless a happy different.
That's kind of shocking to me. It's the first time they've been, I mean, they always make the finals, seemingly. It's the first time they've been on the same day or just the
Well,
same
no,
time.
not the same day, but the same time,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they're often on different time zones. So if Piola's on the East Coast, say Rocky Central time, it would be different. So it's never been exactly the same time and on the same coast, which means the same time zone.
Got it.
So
So what,
it was rough, but I made it through.
yeah, so those are obviously your two highest profile people that you coach. What is it like coaching Rocky and Paola, people just at the top of the game in the sport?
Well, it's a total pleasure because of the kind of people that they are. They're not only great players, but their personalities, their essence. They are both loved by all the racquetball community. People adore Rocky. They adore Paola, and it's really important for me when I coach somebody to have the utmost respect for them, not only on the court but off the court. And if they misbehave or they don't have the right demeanor, it's very difficult for me to coach them. The two of them are probably the epitome of two of the best players to actually coach, both on the men's and women's pro tour. So it's an honor and a privilege.
Yeah. And then in your role as their coach, what do you actually do? What does it look like on a day-to-day basis? Maybe when you're not at a tournament and when you are at a tournament, what does that look like?
Well, when I'm not at a tournament, especially just as we're doing today, we're doing a podcast. With the electronic world the way it is, you don't really have to be there. So, like, the IRT, which is the men's tour, and the LPRT, they both stream. So I'm able to coach them virtually. It's not that as good as being there and being able to see them, but it definitely makes it doable in terms of coaching. When I look at all their video, I'm able to send them things they're doing well, things I want them to adjust. I send them videos of actual drills that I want them to do in order to enhance what they're doing or make some slight changes, whether it be a basic off the back wall drill or a open stance drill, an overhead drill, whatever it is. With technology, it's doable. And then I see them enough around the US. And then, of course, I go with Paola some of her international events. I was just with coaching her at the Pan Am Games in Lima, Peru this past summer, where she won the 3 gold medals. And it's really nice because while we were there, we just did everything. We hung out as friends. We ate together. We drilled together. I coached her. We watched video at night, made adjustments. So it was the full gamut. Made sure she stayed on her routine. Even though I'm not with both of them all the time, I always text them usually 2 to 3 times a week. How's training going? How you feeling? What you doing? And then we usually touch base once or twice a week. So we're always in contact. And I do that with even my top junior players and some of my amateur players that want that kind of coaching. So it's building a relationship. You have to like and respect one another in order for them to want to do and make some of the adjustments that I recommend. They have to believe in your philosophy. I have to believe in their training and their work ethic. So it's the total gamut. It's really it's a partnership, and it's a marriage, so to speak, where we have to enhance one another's excellence and the things that we bring to the table.
Yeah, that's great. I'm curious. I mean, you've been working with both of those players for a long time now. How has that evolved over the years?
Yeah, I've been working with both of them for 10 years, and it just keeps getting stronger and stronger and deeper and deeper. And, I know both their families. I've been to family functions with them. I'm part of their family, as both Rocky and Paola are part of my family. When they visit here, I make dinner, they come to my house. I've had Charlie Pratt to my house. So it's really, it's important. That it's not on just a superficial level for me. It's really important that we go many, many levels deep, in order to bring out the best in them, and also to bring out the best in me.
Yeah. And I want to get into your background a little bit. So, how did you start? You were obviously a player back in the day. How did you transition from? I guess what was your playing career like, and then how did you transition into coaching?
Well, my actual degree is a Bachelor of Science in teaching, and I wanted to
Oh,
go into physical education. So I have my degree in teaching, but I decided, what, if I don't try the pro tour now, as one gets older and things other things come into your life, you never really get to pursue a dream that you've always had. So I decided to get my degree and then go right into onto the pro tour, and I played the tour for somewhere around 8 to 10 years. And it was a natural fit for me to start doing clinics and doing one night exhibitions to supplement my income while I was out there doing uh, tournaments. And I started to love it more and more and more. And at the time, Steve Strandimo was the big teacher, and I went to a couple of his camps, and I said, "Wow, I really, really, really enjoy, working with people and teaching them." And I started doing a little coaching, and one thing led to another, and I decided that when I reached the point where I couldn't do both, I made a choice of coaching, and I actually, unfortunately, make more coaching than some of the players make playing, except for somebody maybe like Paola. Um, that is what I call the Serena Williams of racquetball, where she has so many endorsements and the government supports her, and the Mexican government, Bolivian government, all those foreign countries, they actually give their athletes stipends per month. They pay their way to tournaments. They're on bonuses, etc. And it's sad that in the U.S. it is not like that. And I even said something to Rocky at the Pan Am Games. Paola, which I didn't know, is the winningest athlete for the Pan American Games for Mexico, both men and women. She's won 9 gold medals over 3 Pan American Games: 2011 in Guadalajara, 2015 in Toronto, and now 2019 in Lima. And they treat her like we treat our basketball players or our football players. I mean, she is uh, very, very, very well known, and companies want to sponsor her. And by winning a gold medal, it's worth more than just the gold medal, because, they get endorsements, and, the government and sponsors, support her endeavors. And it just makes it easier to play, because then you're paid what you deserve, and you're not having to work 2 and 3 jobs along with playing, because then you can't really focus on being the best athlete that you could be in that sport.
yeah, absolutely. And I actually have a quick story to share about with payola. So, a friend of mine, I live in Portland, Oregon, and Nike, the headquarters, is in
Hmm.
Portland or near it.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine worked at Nike, and his job was to give the athletes, make sure that they were getting their sponsorship gear and money and everything like that, and make sure they were satisfied. And I was at the U.S. Open. I was in Minneapolis, and he goes, "Hey, I know you're in Minneapolis. Do you know who Paola Longoria is?" And I was like, "Yes." Pretty big name in racquetball. And he goes, "Yeah, we're setting her up with a thing at Nike in Minneapolis." I just thought it was so funny that she has support in that way, and that just the connection was wild. But could you talk a little bit more about Paola and her fame in Mexico? Because I think it's really unique in the racquetball world, the fame and the amount of money she's been able to earn, the amount of endorsements she has. Um, yeah, could you talk a little bit more about what that's like for her
Well,
and you
what that's like for her and me. I
and
mean,
you?
when I travel with her, um, whether we're just sitting at a restaurant and, having dinner, or we're going through the airport, or we're at a mall, or whatever we are, everyone knows her. It's kind of like, I don't play tennis, but I just went to the US Open tennis tournament in New York, and I wanted to get people's autograph, right? That's how she is. She is looked at, in my opinion, as a professional athlete should be looked at. And to me, it's a shame that we don't treat our professional racquetball players here in the U.S. the way the other countries. And I know, when the both tours came back from Bolivia, this past March, they were treated like kings and queens. People were running after them through the airport and asking for autographs, and that's how it should be. So I often still sometimes get surprised when we're just at dinner and somebody wants to take a picture with Paola, and she never says no. I mean, we could be at an event for 2 hours after she's done until the last autograph is signed, the last picture is signed. And one of the greatest moments is when she actually played in San Luis Potosí, which is her hometown, and they have a tournament named after her, the Paola Longoria Experience. She came out of the court, and there are hundreds and hundreds of kids just waiting to touch her and get her, wristband, or get her racket, or just kind of like what they do at the US Open when they're done with their tournament, the US Open tennis, they sign 4 balls and they hit it out to the audience, and people are, scrambling to get she is the epitome of what a professional athlete should be, and is treated in any other sport except racquetball here in the US.
Yeah, super cool. I wanted to get into, you were talking about how your coaching profession, you not only coach the top athletes, but you coach everybody in
Yes.
racquetball at all levels. What does that look like? I know you do a lot of clinics, you travel around a lot for that. What has that experience been like?
Well, I absolutely love my goal as a coach is I want to make a difference in someone's life, whether it's a Paola Longoria or it's a C player at my club, whether they're a tournament player, locally playing in a shootout. If I can make a difference in how not only they approach the game, but how that helps them approach life, because to me, it's, racquetball is part of life. So if you're mentally tough on the court, you know how to adjust to problems that occur. If you know how to adjust to maybe somebody bullying you on the court, trying to say, no, that was a good shot. And you know how to stand up to people, it just makes you a better person in life. So that's my goal, is making a difference. And one of the people that you actually know, Wayne Antone, when he won the boys junior 18 and under, he lost he was playing in this Daniel Rojas, playing in Stockton. And it's his second year, and he's playing him. He loses the first game, I don't know, maybe 15-5. And he's now down 9-4. I tell him to call a timeout. He comes off the court. He kicks a water bottle. He does all these things. I take him outside, and I basically talked to him, and I said, so you really think that this behavior is going to help you turn the match around to win? And if you think that, be my guest. Then you don't need me. If you want to turn this match around, these are the things you need to do. It's 1 point at a time. I said, you're in great shape. You could get to all the balls. Daniel is getting tired. I could tell that he wants to end points really fast, keep them deep. Anyway, he comes back in, turns it around, wins 15-12, and is down 9-4 in the breaker and wins 11-10. And it's not about him winning, even though the following text is based on that. He's driving home after he won the boys 18 and under for the second year in a row. And he says to me, Fran, I was a train derailing. If you were not there to get me back on track, I would have never won. That's why I coach, for those reasons. I have another story where somebody She never made it past the semifinals. A junior player in junior nationals, she was always in the shadows of some of the better players. And about 5 years ago, she sent me an email and saying, Fran, I just want to let you know my parents are doing this, that, and the other thing, my family, but I want to let you know I'm in law school. I just passed my bar. And I want you to know that what the things you taught me about discipline and hard work ethic and commitment and never say die and find a way and all the things that I work with my athletes on, whether it's juniors or adults, you are part of me becoming a lawyer. And you ask, why I teach or why I coach. Those are the reasons, to make a difference in someone's life, not only on the court, but take what they learn on the court and use it off the court and make them a better person for it.
Wonderful. So having such a great purpose like that, did you find that the sport was doing that for you when you were a player? Or
Uh,
I guess what is the reason that it seems like you have this mindset around it that you like the sport as it relates to life, and the bigger picture. What gave you
yeah,
that perspective?
I don't know. Along
Yeah.
the way, I've had different mentors, Jim Pruitt, Jim Winterton, Steve Stranamo, different people along the way, and then people outside the sport, Bernie Kohout, teaching me about, what life's about. Life is not about just, winning. It's about taking what you learn and applying it to other things and making you a better person. And my mom, she should rest in peace. She was my rock. She taught me, to always find a way to be kind to people, to see the good in people. When I was a player, I must say that, as a lot of people, I was too young. I didn't allow a lot of this to be utilized in my competitive nature. And I was feisty and I wanted to win. And if I had the tools that I have now, as most people usually say, then I probably could have achieved maybe being the number one player in the world. I got ranked as high as fifth. But I've taken what I've learned along the way from, different people in my life, whether it be in racquetball or just in my life in general. And, getting my degree in teaching. And I just decided, I love the way I feel when I see somebody, a C player, a beginner, win a match that they never would have won unless they had the information that I share with them. And, it's like, Paola, this, again, the epitome of coaching is coaching the number one player in the world. At the Pan Am Games, her and Samantha were down 1-5 in the breaker against Guatemala in the in the gold medal women's doubles. And they took a timeout. We talked, we made adjustments. They came back and they won 11-5. So the Guatemala team never scored another point. That's what coaching's about, is them listening to some of the adjustments that, the coaches see, believing in us, believing in that, we have that third eye, and taking it and using it to the nth degree. And, winning a gold medal is a testament of being able to make that adjustment when they were down 1-5. Most people would choke. Most people would just, not be able to rise to the occasion. But taking it one point at a time and using that information and making the adjustments on the serve or the shots or the return to serve, helped her win a gold medal. So her winning a gold medal and the C player at my club winning a league match, it's still the greatest feeling in the world.
Yeah. Do you have a particular time that was the best feeling, maybe the highlight moment of your coaching career?
I've had so many.
Yeah.
y- you know, uh, when you're on the line and the firing line, and you have to, just like a football coach or a tennis coach or whatever. And is it the coach? It's the athlete. I think it's the team. It's the team of how we work together to make those adjustments. So I have a lot of great, um, memories. I'll never forget, the first year I coached Jason Menino in 2001. We went to the Pro Nationals in Las Vegas, and we were playing it at a club that the front wall was glass, completely glass. And the bleachers were in front of the glass, right, to watch the match. And, I see him and we're hanging out, we're all talking, and Jason says to me, I hate that court. I've never made it past the quarterfinals of this tournament. I can't stand that court. And I didn't think anything of it till 15 minutes later when we, kind of separated and was saying hello to people. So I ran and I went and found him. And I talked to him and I gave him a mental toughness tip that I learned from James Lear, one of the prominent mental toughness coaches in the game of tennis, about talking to yourself in front of a mirror 25 times, 3 times a day. And I basically said, you have to say to yourself, I love that court. Everybody's in the same boat you are, but I love that court. And he added a little mantra when he passed the court at the games. He blew a kiss to the court and he said, I love you. Not only did he, make it past the quarters, he beat John Ellis and Cliff Swain in the same tournament to win that tournament. So that, again, was another highlight of being able to change his mindset from being negative to being positive and believing in yourself and using tools that I've learned from, other people, mental toughness coaches, trainers, all the things that it takes to be the best that you can be.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm curious, in the way that you coach, do you find that it's mostly you end up coaching people on the mental side of the game versus the physical, or what is the bulk of what you end up advising people on?
Well, like someone like Paola, she has a mental toughness coach, Magali, and she has a trainer that works on the physical part of her game, Nelson, and, and I'm her, technical, strategic coach. And then she has a sparring partner, Edson. And we all work together. But when I'm at a tournament, I'm doing it all. Like sometimes I have to help her warm up for a match because Nelson's not with us, because the funds are not there, and Magali can't travel to all the tournaments. So, I use things that she's taught me, and we text each other, and she'll tell me what to say to her during the match, and then what I've learned over the years, what's worked, and like. When we went to the tournament, and we're using a different ball, the Pro Tour, the IRT and the LPRT, they use the pen ball. Well, at the international competitions, they're using the gearbox ball. So, it's a different ball and how it plays. And I said, well, I said, just like in tennis, they play on different surfaces. On football, they play, and different surfaces. You have to learn how to accept whatever's there. And so sometimes I have to use my, mental experience, that I've learned over the years to help them learn how to accept, whatever it is that comes their way, whatever obstacle they think is in their mind, and have to change how they're thinking, their negative thinking to positive thinking, like I did to, Jason with, hating that court. And within 5 days, he loved the court, So those are challenges. So I can't say, I have to say that I am, on paper, her technical and strategic coach, but I wear all the hats. But I don't have all the tools that Nelson and Magali have, and they help me along the way if I'm the only one that's at the tournament, helping her in that moment. They give me support along the way.
Very cool. So from all when it comes to maybe a beginner player, what do you find is the most common thing that you end up advising a beginner player on?
Well, it's about, one, you're here to have fun. Two, you're going to have a lot more fun if you get somewhat, you're never going to be perfect, somewhat technically sound, and so I start with that, some very basic thing about the grip and the forehand and the backhand. And, if you don't have a good ceiling ball, you're not going to be able to get your opponent out of the middle. So it's all about the very, very basics, because they don't want to know the intricate details. Not all of them, some of them might. But I like to make sure that they're, you know, technically, you know, somewhat sound. And the metaphor I use, you know, that my video is building your racquetball dream house. And I tell them, you know, when you're building a house, you have to have a solid foundation. If you don't, somewhere along the line, how many ever years down the road, things are going to settle in, and you're going to, you know, have cracks in your foundation. You're going to have, you know, your frame of your house doing something you don't want it to be doing. So I don't, you know, when Nike came out with the saying, just do it, I added to it, don't just do it right. So, but I keep it very simple. You know, you don't want to teach a beginner, whether they're 6 years old or they're 16 years old or they're 60 years old, you know, you know, you have to drill, you know, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, and you have to do this. No, you've got to make it fun. I use targets. I'll put garbage cans in the back when they're practicing a ceiling ball. I say, hey, let's see how many times you can get it, you know, the ceiling ball into the, you know, garbage can on one bounce. Or, hey, let's see how many times you can hit that can on the front wall, or, you know, whatever it might be. But I do believe that they have to be somewhat proficient at knowing how to grip the racket, how to hit a forehand, how to hit a backhand, how to hit the basic drive, the basic lob serve, how to return the shot, rush back and get back to the middle. And that's what they need to know. And then if they decide they love the game and they want to pursue it and go further, go from, you know, a beginner or a D player to a C, or, you know, move up the ladder, then we talk.
Yeah.
But
So
it's got to be fun.
absolutely. I love it.
I mean, even with Paola and Rocky, you know, drilling sometimes, and you are obviously a top, you know, professional player. I'm sure there are times that, you know, drilling gets boring, and you've got to make it fun, and you've got to, you know, find a way, you know, to put in the time to get that consistency level that you need at the pro level. You know, like I was very, very amazed. I've been watching the U.S. Open tennis, and Nadal, who happens to be in the finals today, he's playing right now. So I'm taping it so I could watch it. But every time he has a drill session, because they only play every other day. So on the day that they're not playing, they have an hour to an hour and a half drill session. He finishes his drill session, 30 minutes of drilling. And they actually showed when he would hit a serve and that he was going for particular corners, he was going for down the tee or out wide, they would highlight it with a light, and they put a cone on there. And then they showed him in a match. They said, okay, so now let's look at how Nadal's drill session feeds into his match. And he would hit the mark, you know, 90% of the time when he's serving. You know, when he practiced, he went out wide for this certain mark. And then when he played in the match, you know, they showed how he was able, and when he was serving well, he was hitting that mark. That's pretty intense. And that's pretty much how, you know, someone like a Rocky and a Paola, or you yourself, or, you know, when Cliff Swain was playing, or, you know, any of these players out there that want to reach the top of their game have to do. There are no shortcuts.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. One thing I was curious about, this is going back to something you were saying earlier. You are able to make a living doing this racquetball coaching thing.
Mhm.
And that takes a lot of hustle. From what I've seen, that takes being able to go from place to place and running clinics. How have you been able to make that work?
Well, you know, it started when I was, you know, a player, and I really couldn't, you know, make enough money, you know, because I wasn't qualifying. It took me 2 years to actually qualify into the main draw where the money was. So I would have to go in on a Tuesday, and I would do a clinic Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and we'd start playing on Thursday. So, you know, and years ago, you know, I was making maybe 100, 150 a night. And then as, you know, it grew and I developed that, you know, part of my career, I was making, you know, maybe 500 a night. So I'd go in, for 2 nights, because you don't want to do it and be extremely tired afterwards and when you play. I was making 500, and okay, now I'm making 1,000. And then I was qualifying, and I made some money qualifying, and I was able to do it. But the biggest thing is Head, who now is Head Penn, but Head owns Penn. I've been with them for over close to 35 years. And when in 1983, when I went to them and said, look, I have an idea. I want to run a series of camps and clinics and exhibitions. I want to hit the grassroots level players of the game. And I want to use your product. I love your product. And, we sat down and we talked about it, and I gave them a proposal, and they've been my sponsor ever since. I could not do it without their support, both financially and product. They give me the balls and giveaways, and they believe in all the work that I do. And now they love that I coach, because, I'm coaching two of the best players, and they get, they're on social media and they get a lot of publicity. And so they love all that. I write articles in the magazine. So, Doug Ganem, who's my boss, who actually is the director of the US Open racquetball tournament. He's my boss in, for Head. I was able, with their support, to be able to go out and, pursue my dream, which is coaching and doing clinics and exhibitions. And then about 10 years ago, we went from the number 4 manufacturer to the number 1, and he needed help. And he said, Fran, how would you like me to create a position for you? And I've been with Head in that position for about 10 years, the national promotions coordinator. I'm basically Doug Ganem's right-hand person. I handle all of the amateur players. We have about 900 amateur players that we sponsor around the country. I work with RMCs, who are the people that run the player program in each particular state. And, I write articles for the IRT, for the USRA magazine. I'm on social media all the time. They love that. And, so it's been a great, great partnership. But without their support, without them believing in me, without Doug creating a position for me, I couldn't do what I'm doing and be comfortable with what I'm doing. And because of that, I'm able to live a dream, of being a coach, have played the pro tour, and then, filtered into being a coach, and still be in the racquetball community that has been my family for 35 plus years. Totally, totally happy. When I can't say that traveling doesn't get to me at times, but I absolutely love what I do. I'm very, very passionate about coaching, teaching, being Doug's right-hand person, helping people, at tournaments, at the Head Penn booth, talking to people. Just love it.
Fantastic. So I'm curious, on a bigger racquetball overall as a sport level, what would be some things you would like to see done to help other people make more money in the sport, or to help the sport grow, or in other words, to help the sport of racquetball get bigger? Because right now it seems to be on more of a downward turn.
Yeah, I mean, the grassroots level is where it actually, needs to be promoted, not at the tournament level. Okay. And so, I'm part of the teaching. I'm one of the USARIP master instructors with Jim Winterton and Jim Heiser. We go around the country and we develop the teaching program. We want to develop, teachers out there that are, coaching at the high school level or the junior high school level or collegiate, helping them, become better coaches, better teachers. And so I've, pretty much, I make very minimal when I'm doing these clinics, but there's been a lot of time that I've had, that we've all had to invest in that. So that's one area. In my opinion, what they did with the high school program in St. Louis, what they've done in Oregon needs to be, needs to spread all over the country. there needs to be a high school, junior high school program in every state in the country. And I guess it was at nationals last year, Doug explained to me, he says, what the PGA Tour does for golf. He said, Fran, the PGA went to their teaching association and said, we will give you this amount of money, a grant, for you to go out, hire a national person. That person will then hire people in every state and every city of the country. And we want to have a golf club. The kids that are not good enough to make the team in golf or in football or track or whatever it is, that love the sport. And we want to have a club sport. We want 10 boys, 10 girls. We'll get them all uniforms, like a jacket or whatever. And then they play people kind of like what they do in the high school racquetball, where they play different schools within their city. They started out, Doug told me, the first year with 3,000 juniors in the golf program. They are now up to 50,000. That's what racquetball needs to do. I love that model. I think we need to spend or get sponsors or get grants to be able to do that kind of thing, because that's where we're missing the boat, is in the youth. Because I'm one of the best coaches in the world, but eventually, when my students allow me to retire, I'm going to want to move on, and we're going to need somebody behind us. And, we need to develop the youth. End of story. And I think that the model that St. Louis uses and Oregon uses in racquetball, and what Doug explained to me that they do in golf, is something that we would need, in my opinion, to latch on to and use in our sport to stop the bleeding, help us grow, and hopefully flourish again like we did in the 80s.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you for bringing up that example. I think that's a fantastic model. And one last thing, I was curious, as far as your long history in the sport, do you have a favorite racquetball story? It doesn't have to be on the court, it can be off the court, but just a favorite story from your racquetball past.
Oh my goodness. Well, yes, I do. It's actually a funny story. I was coaching the U.S. racquetball team, and we were doing a goodwill tour in Mexico. This was when Mexico, really was non-existent in racquetball. Now they're a powerhouse. And we're doing a goodwill tour, and we're in a bus, and we're going from city to city, and we stop on the side of the road, and we order, some drinks. And I said, I'd like a Coke to go with some ice. They gave me a Coke in a plastic bag, tied up with a straw, with ice in it. And that's what they gave me. And I just, to this day, I still find it, was amazing that that's what they consider a to-go versus, a glass or a cup that we know in the U.S. It was just a funny story.
Okay, that's great. That's not what I was expecting, but that's fantastic.
That's the first thing that came to my mind.
I love it. Okay. Well, Fran, thank you so much for joining me. I want to be respectful of your time, and thank you for joining me on a day where you've had two athletes, a hectic coaching day. You had two athletes in the finals of their respective divisions. And is there anything that you would like to leave our listeners with, or anything you'd like to plug?
No, I just think, the most important thing is when you start to play racquetball, part of the problem within racquetball, in my opinion, when it first became very, very popular was, you don't need to take lessons, just grab a racket, go on the court, have fun, you'll love it. And, and then 2-3 years later, they have all these bad habits, and then they come to people like myself, and they want, a quick fix, or they want, they want to learn the game, but they're frustrated. And when you look at any other sport, from, people take golf lessons, people take tennis lessons. When, kids are, in when they're on a football team, when they are, on a track team, they're always working on, the fundamentals and, building from the ground up. And that's what I recommend. I recommend not go from the top down, because then that's when, things start to crumble, and, you reach the B level because you're athletic, but you don't really have the skill set. So, whether it's take a lesson, whether it's buy, I have a book called, Championship Racquetball, written by myself and Jason Menino. I have a video, Building Your Racquetball Dream House. There's things online that you could look at, but become educated, learn the right way from the get-go. For me, I love to get somebody new. Like, I consider it like putty. If they're in my hands, I can mold them to the way they need to be, going in the right direction. But I see too many people come to people like myself, and they have to undo what they've done for 20 years. And that's not always the easiest thing to do when they're in their 30s or 40s or even in their 60s. So, like I said, my motto is don't just do it right. Learn how to play the game right, have fun, enjoy, become educated, understand what it takes to build yourself up from a C to a B to an A, enjoy. And then if you are fortunate enough, like myself, to have people teach me, and, give back, spend a little time helping somebody at the YMCA or whatever. But don't just pick up a racket and play and then fall in love with the game, which is what most people do. And then you have to take steps backwards to really improve your game, and you'll love it. Because when you play well and, you put yourself in a position to win and be competitive, that's the best feeling in the world. But when you're lost and you're like a deer with headlights and you don't know what's going on, it's not fun. And racquetball should be fun.
That's a great way to end it. Racquetball should be fun. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, Fran, thank you so much for joining me. I've really appreciated this interview, and it was great sitting down and talking with you.
Well, I've always been a fan of yours, Dylan. I didn't even know you did this until last year when you told me, and some other people told me you did podcasts. It's, I've seen you come through the junior ranks, you and your brother and your dad. And, it's great to see you develop, not only on the court, but as a great player. And, because I know that Rocky has the utmost respect for you. He played, I think, you at the U.S. Open last year and told me that, you have game. But to see you mature as a person, and be humble, it's great. I love all the kids that have come up through, the Oregon racquetball, you and Charlie and, some of the women, Caitlin Boyle and, Wayne and Mitchell. Racquetball, we're just such a tight-knit group of people. And it's just nice to see you not only giving back to racquetball like you're doing here, but I know that you're successful in work, and you can't play as much racquetball as you'd like because you have a real job. But thanks for including me in this. It's great, and I can't wait to see you in a few weeks in Minneapolis.
Yeah, thank you for the kind words. And yes, looking forward to the U.S. Open. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, are you training?
No, I haven't picked up a racket in years. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's typical, but I'm sure it's not true.
All right, yeah.
Competitors are listening.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about me, competitors. All right. Thank you, Fran.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.